Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. Black-controlled mining company Exxaro recently pleaded for mine land and mine water to be used for community development through agriculture. Martin Creamer tells us more. Welcome, Martin.
Thanks, Sashnee.
The new CEO of Exxaro has pleaded for structured use of mine land. Why so?
I'm very happy about this because you do have the situation where a lot of the mines, the underground mines, have got a lot of tracts of land on surface, a lot of availability of water. The vast quantity of water that is pumped every day, for instance, is not really brought into the system of agriculture. And we've got an issue around food security. We've also got an issue around water security. So if you can get water from different sources, it's going to be a benefit. But the biggest thing is community development. As Mzolisi Magojo, who's the new CEO of Exxaro, said, he's got every other day people toying out his mine, asking for things that he cannot give them. But he knows he's got vast tracts of land, he's got water availability around particularly his coal mines, and he's beginning to think more firmly around involving people in doing something on that land. We note that it coincided with a big announcement this weekend, as we saw in the Sunday press, huge adverts flying over the pages about many corporate companies in South Africa quickly raising 1.5 billion to create a fund for enterprise development. And we see it's called the SASME Fund. And they've got an interim head who wants to get things going. Well, here's an area where people can start, because it's not only, digging holes in the ground. There's all sorts of linkages that you can get from this. Not the least being packaging, not the least being, agri-processing, and also, retailing or getting into the markets. So I think there's an opportunity here, and we have that vision of what was in Tavland. We know the old Johannesburg Consolidated Investments. They made a fortune out of those operations that they had in Tavland. Why the people who took over JCI saw that not as their core business and sent it south is just mind-boggling to a lot of people who were close to that and saw the magnificent fruit that was produced from Tavland at the Western Areas mine, in the Western Areas land, close to where we've now got the big goldfields operation. So the potential, people saw it a long time ago. Why they stopped it, I just don't know. But at least we've got these voices saying, go forward.
And can you just expand more? Exxaro itself is considering involving near-mine communities in agricultural activity on the land around its coal mines. Can you tell us more?
Yes, they've decided that, look, you've got a mandatory duty. It's the social and labour obligations that you've got. When you've got a mine, you've got to carry out these obligations. He's saying, why not direct them towards this near-mine activity, which will be visible to you, which will be visible to the people around your mines. Perhaps, he says, it's a little bit more meaningful than just ticking boxes. He knows that creches are important. That could also be involved in this whole thing. And he's referred to bakeries. There are a lot of bakeries. Well, there were some very successful bakeries, I know, around Kumba and Ore. So it's not something that you should say shouldn't happen. But the bigger opportunity and the bigger implication seems to be, around these vast tracts of land and access to water around these mines and the needs of the near mine communities. And, I once went up to the Democratic Republic of Congo, saw a new copper mine there, and vast number of people around the mine. And I said, were these people always there? No. They only come when the mine comes. So people also get attracted towards the mine. They feel there's some opportunity for them. Perhaps this could be the opportunity.
The company is also looking at how it can utilize some of the latest technology in agriculture.
Technology is very important today. If you're going to go into agriculture, go in the smart way. And, we had the visionary, Dr. Robbie Robinson. He always said, go for hydroponic fertigation. And that involves, subsurface drip irrigation onto the roots. Make sure you use that water sparingly. You don't want to waste it. And use a sort of a mixture of fertilization with that, which can give you incredible results. I mean, although we've got Mzalisi Magojo talking about this, he's the new Exxaro chief and wanting to go ahead with it. We have on the West Rand and the West Wits, we have the Sibanye Gold that has already gone ahead with a project there, and journalists and media and analysts were out there, and we saw some incredible little tricks with their drip irrigation and the fertilization, the mixture that they give it. But what was even more impressive was that a formerly hostile near-mine community took ownership of this, were excited, were setting out their organograms showing who's doing what in the area. And the bigger thing, this was not only going into the near-mine community, these beautiful green lettuces, but they also managed to start selling them into the SPAR group. So, if you go to get into a big retail group, you've got the right quality, that starts a revenue stream developing. And just in this dipping the toe, Sibanye Gold, Neil Froneman, he's just dipped his toe into this agriculture really, and it's already employing about 640 people. So you can see that the potential is big. And we know that, at Tavland, I think they used to employ 10,000 people. But there can also be the other linkages to that agriculture which create jobs, create spin-offs. And perhaps this South African SME fund could look to apportioning some of that money towards this sort of development. We know that some of the contributors to that 1.5 billion which just been raised are mining companies. One of them I saw on the list there was Anglo American Platinum. So these CEOs have come together. I know they're coming together because in the first week of October they've got to go and face the world in New York and try and make sure that our credit rating stays in place. But I find that this is one of our strengths here. The corporate sector is one of the strengths. When politics falls down, the corporate sector can pull it up. And if those 40 CEOs go on and put a strong face, a realistic face, a credible face, and one of them will also be Mzalisi Magojo, that can do South Africa a lot of good.
You've mentioned already Sibanye Gold is trying to ensure community development in areas it mines. And you've also said the late Robbie Robinson had a passion for linking mining and agriculture. Can you just expand on that?
Yes, Robbie was particularly passionate. I mean, he put out many papers on this. He put them into the Mining Journal because he knew the background. In the mid-90s, he had been offered a situation where there were tenders going into Grootvlei mine. Now, we know Grootvlei gold mine out on the East Rand is dead and buried. It had a problem. It had a lot of water. And he went through there, but there's still millions of ounces of gold under there, but they covered in water. That water becomes polluted. We call it acid mine drainage. In the mid-90s, he pursued an opportunity, it's a tender opportunity, contract opportunity, to turn that water into positive development. He did it. This chemical engineer, he said, I will process that water for you free of charge to the mine. No charge to you. I will also take that water from you. And he was going to involve 7,000 informal settlers in jobs through agriculture. And the Department of Water Affairs at the time, mind-bogglingly, almost insulted him and said, we're not prepared to have anything other than drinking water. Now, how hypocritical when that very same department is putting the same water into our Vaal River. They have given what they said shouldn't happen, they're doing. But doing it so expensively, God, I mean, really, someone should really look into that. He was going to process this water free of charge with his own iron technology, which had come out of Tavland, the old JCR. And you can see it's now being turned to commercial account out on the West Rand, using Dr. Robbie Robinson's technique of purifying that water at no charge to the mines and getting valuables out of it that fund it. That was his idea. It's now being actually commercialized. We can see it. And it could change the whole face of South Africa, because this acid mine drainage that people complain about all over is nothing. It's a little pimple on the face when it comes to water. The real water is under our driest areas in the Karoo. That water cannot be used for agriculture. But with Robbie's and this new technique that we've got, that was an expansion of his, you could turn that desert into, Garden of Eden, agriculture. And so that's what he was denied by these officials. And the officials then adopted another system, which they paid a lot of money for. It was a total flop. Because, it's in an urban area, and they were processing water in a way that was so malodorous, in other words, it stunk, that the people around there just protested. We can't have this processing that stinks. It creates a stink in the atmosphere. They had to close it down. But we don't hear anything about that, Meantime, you could have had an example of not only keeping a gold mine going, but using that water that was a problem to give 7,000 people work plus all the spin-offs. He was denied that. It tended to break his heart in a way. He still pursued this idea, and in December last year he died at a ripe old age. But before that he managed to put out many messages, and the people are starting to take up some of those messages, as we see now. And we see Sibanye Gold really impressively moving ahead with that. Not as a diversification. The gold mines don't want money out of this. They want to make sure that when they leave in 30 or 40 years' time, there's a community there actively involved in the economy of the area. So it's a really important thing. We're hearing about mine closures, and mines have to pay every year for closure guarantees. Why not make sure that there's an infinite horizon when you leave? Is the government got blinkers on or what? They're talking, pay lip service to all these things. They even pay lip service to trying to structure, the Langlaagte situation, where Langlaagte, this should be a World Heritage Site. This is where Johannesburg's gold was found. We should have fantastic pictures. We should have more than a gold reef city there. We should be a tremendous tourist attraction. What have they turned it into? A hole in the ground where people are dying. And now they're saying, they want to try and structure it. Structure it? You're going to go under there. If you're not going to die, from a collapse you're going to die because you're going to get typhus, all breathing in that dust. It's not an easy thing to do. Now they toy around with ideas like that, which is so stupid, when we've got opportunity here to move ahead, give a lot of people employment, and at the same time, do something with all that water that you generate and the land that you've got, for the benefit of the people, with the knock-on effects that will be good for the South African economy.
Thank you for speaking with us, Mark.
It's a great pleasure, Sashnee.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news and analysis on South Africa's mining industry.